Good evening, everyone, and good evening, Paul. Apologies to everyone in the chat. We're a few minutes late. Paul's had to join us via his phone because he turned his laptop on. It was updating, so a bit of a panic. But we're here and we're live. And welcome, Paul. How was your Sky weekend?
I had a really good day yesterday, and then I've had a disaster today.
Disaster.
Uh, yeah, I brought in March yesterday, like long-term planning with budget, so that worked out really well. 8 points and two shots and assist.
He's really lucky not to
Oh,
score. I was looking at the
yeah, I had five
stats.
shots,
Unbelievable.
uh, 5 shots on target,
Wow.
and then I was 50-50 on whether I was bringing Trippier in today, and I didn't. I did it in my second team, which is now fourth overall, but I didn't do it in the team at second. I was weighing up whether I thought Gabriel would score more in 3 games against Trippier in 4. Newcastle hadn't kept a clean sheet in 6. Played Man United at home. Their next 3 after that's away. So the rationale behind it. But there's not many coin flips in at least what I think is coin flips in my head that I've got wrong this season. But that's definitely the first. Definitely on the wrong side of that.
It's funny because we were having a bit of a chat this morning. We'll be on Messenger about it, and I was having an hour in. And I suppose my just rationale was, the kind of game within a game in terms of Newcastle defence had 95% effective ownership. So, I was 10th. I was just incredibly keen to stay in the top 10 at the end of the day. There was the 3-0,
Yeah.
and I kind of used that rationale. Whereas I think I tend to look a bit more at kind of what's in front of me sometimes, whereas you play the kind of longer, more strategic game. And obviously, as you say, you get the highs and lows then of both, don't you? So, interesting to see how it'll play out in the long term. But yeah, still second, mate, and fourth, flying.
Yeah. I'm always coming on disappointed from the games, but yeah, that is what it is, right? I brought in Bruno as well, and Man United were dreadful, like so bad.
They were. I don't think. I think the next two, right, away to Newcastle was always going to be like
Yeah,
an incredibly hard match. I mean, that's not why we brought him in. We brought him in for the next two, which was it home to Everton, home to Brentford, home to Everton or something. So
yeah,
and then Forest
yeah.
after
So
that.
yeah. I think I'll get rid of him for Salah before then anyway. But that was my thinking was it's only one extra move to move through him
Yeah.
to get to Salah in the longer term. So yeah, I'm not as disappointed with the Bruno situation rather than the not getting Trippier. But I did do it in my second team. I had one extra transfer in that team. So
Welcome everyone who is in the chat. Windy65. My team's finished nowhere of note last season, but somehow found myself in the top 50. Well done, Windy. Great stuff there. Kaiser Sose is in the 300s. Quite a few transfers in hand, so hopefully a top 100 finish. Julian Ward is in. Bruno and Rashford transfers in today, not looking spectacular. I do think it's the extra game, though. I do think we have to, away to Newcastle, you couldn't have been expecting a 2 or 3-0 Man United win. I know they won the cup, but away to Newcastle, it's a different prospect. So they're in place now, ready for the next two. So, I think it's good. Nima is in, tuning in live. Captain Dunk yesterday and Captain Rashford today. I captain Saka yesterday, by the way.
ask him why he captained Dunk yesterday.
What's that? Why? I can see because he was doing Edinburgh, was he?
Yeah,
Yeah, at
yeah.
the
We
FPL
caught before the game,
meets.
and I was like, and I said, and he was like, oh, like yeah, I was talking about you to Fergi the other day when we met, and I was like, and you obviously having a good Sky season, and I was like, yeah, we sat like the early news coming out with Saka changed captaincy. He's like, oh yeah, I need to change my captaincy, so he went and changed it then and there.
I I briefly saw, so I was out of football for my kids' match, and I briefly saw some fleeting rumor, but I gotta be honest, I didn't really look into it. I didn't realize it was as sound as it seemed. I thought it was just one of these maybe, and we've all been stung before by these maybes, right? And so I did see it, but I didn't. I gotta be honest, I didn't investigate it anymore just because I was at my kids' match and I didn't have time. But I got away with it. I think you had Dunk for a 3-pointer, and even those who moved off to others, Gabriel, Zinchenko, and people like that. I think the max they scored was 5. So, and I got the point off Saka. So a 4-point loss is not the end of the world. It could definitely have been worse, I think. So yeah, it's all right. Looking now at the lay of the land for the next few days, then in terms of which teams have got the the largest volume of games in the short term. There's lots of teams now go on a bit of a 2 or 3 for zeros over certain teams. Man United have obviously just played their first one away to Newcastle, which is not nice, but like I say, home to Brentford midweek, home to Everton. You would expect them to bounce back and score some goals, I think it's fair to say, in both those matches. Liverpool away to Chelsea on Tuesday, home to Arsenal on Sunday. Salah is probably going to be on the menu with Leeds and Forest after that. Spurs obviously play tomorrow night, then at home to Brighton, home to Bournemouth. Leicester have 3 nice matches as well. So Arsenal now are away to Liverpool next Sunday, but then don't have a game till the following Sunday, which is why there was a big hop off yesterday. Leeds won a good few games. West Ham disappointed. I'm guessing some people probably tried, chance their arm on maybe players like Bowen and things like that this afternoon. Maybe Ben Rama or something like that, or maybe a defender. Solly March came in clutch yesterday for owners, 8-pointer, and probably unlucky, as you say, to be fair. It wasn't the right time for me to bring him in, but what's that?
A lot of people would have moved to McAllister yesterday as well.
Yeah.
I wanted the 0.5 saving for future transfers, knowing that I could get through. If I had kept Gabriel, if I'd done Trippier, it wouldn't have mattered.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Another reason I probably should have done it, but it's all good.
What's your take, Paul? On these next few weeks, in terms of teams to target maybe and players and things.
Yeah, so for me, I think the extra fixtures have finished in terms of what I'd be doing for fixture games and over the next kind of short to medium term. Anyway, the Liverpool games. So either the Arsenal game on the Sunday rather, or the following week on the Monday night. It would be a good time to get in Salah and maybe like one other. So I'm thinking of getting Van Dijk, and I don't think I'll go any more than that. I know some people are talking about loading up on them, but they seem to play really well at Anfield and pick up points there, and they're still really poor on travel. So I don't want to invest too heavy. They do play in the blank game week, which is good. I think their fixtures against Forest at home on Saturday. So again, that's a good opportunity to jump off the Arsenal players when they play Southampton on the Friday night. So storing 2 or 3 of the Arsenal players until then, and then coming off. Maybe that's the point, coming off for Van Dijk if you've got a bit of money from perhaps Saka. But really, for me, the next jump on point. So I'll probably use 1 or 2 transfers on the Liverpool players. I'll see what I do about Trippier in the short term as well. But outside of those kind of 3 moves, I doubt, unless injuries come up or suspensions, there's a really nice jump on point again. Say after that blank FA Cup weekend, there's some games at midweek after, and teams that play on the Saturday. There's teams that play on the Saturday that only have 1 game that game week, and teams that play on the Sunday that have 2 and have an additional fixture later on down the line as well. So for me, that's the ideal time. Apologies, I can't get the dates up on.
No,
I'm doing this on the phone. So
Haaland as well, obviously disappointed those who stayed loyal with him. I think his ownership was 39% on Saturday morning. Very, very difficult next weekend now, because they don't play till 5:30 away to Southampton. And obviously, it's going to be the same off Pep, right? It's going to be maybe he makes it. He's been in training. We'll see all that sort of jazz. As it stands, obviously, we'll learn a lot more as the week progresses, but as it stands, so they're away to Southampton, who, it's probably fair to say are still struggling, though they have slightly improved. On the same day, United home to Everton, Spurs home to Brighton as well. What's your current thinking on Haaland? If we're still not sure by Saturday lunchtime, will he be coming back in for you on Saturday?
So it all really depends on Tony midweek. So if he gets booked midweek, I think it's easy just to move on to Haaland.
Yeah,
Maybe
that's
don't
fair.
even captain and maybe make that move, knowing
Yeah.
that this is the move that I'd be penciling in later down the line anyway. If he doesn't, I could see Alvarez. Obviously, City played really well yesterday without him as well. Alvarez played well, scored. So I think that if anything, that Haaland maybe comes on in that game if he's wanting to prove his kind of match fitness before the Bayern game.
Yeah.
So I probably now wouldn't get him in, knowing that we're not seeing the lineups.
I think the same, and I think, yeah, as you said, I think that Bayern match is really important as well, isn't it? The following week, it's a similar story, home to Leicester. Before it comes a bit less frightening, because after that they don't have a game then until the week Wednesday after that because of the FA Cup. It's beginning to feel maybe that we can get through this period potentially without Haaland, and it's purely because of the quality of the players and fixtures that have matches on those days. Like next Saturday, we'll go through the game week now, but even Watkins at home to Forest at the moment, the form that both teams are in, Watkins looks a really good deputy, right? Just as an example, as well as the other ones. And then the following Saturday, when Man City will play Leicester again, you don't get to see the lineups at all. Spurs home to Bournemouth, for example, looks a really good fixture for Harry Kane, for example. I'm beginning to think we can maybe get away without having Haaland until possibly Wednesday, the 26th of April, when they play Arsenal. But even that's going to be an incredibly difficult game. Salah plays on that same day against West Ham as well. So yeah, is that your current thinking at the moment? Or
I think I'm on similar lines to you. Is like, I guess like where I'm competing just now at the top, I think I'm selfishly thinking about what others are going to do around me. And I mean, if someone was looking for a real differential to push on, then captain and Haaland and like blind might be
love that. All in.
might be a phenomenal play. Like might be a phenomenal play, but I imagine most will play it quite safe, and I think that on that basis, it lends itself to me not getting Haaland in as well.
On Brighton, obviously they look absolutely superb. I think they had a record amount of shots in a Premier League match yesterday, and like Raya made 11 saves, which is pretty insane. We know some people have gone on to Mart, some people have gone to McAllister, lots have gone on to Dunk, etc. Looking now at their fixtures for the next few games, they're away to Bournemouth midweek, which looks a really nice fixture. On Tuesday, you probably expect the Bournemouth midfielders to do kind of reasonably well in that match. After that, they are away to Spurs and away to Chelsea, which are are two teams not on form, but they are away. Do you think that the kind of time has passed at the moment to jump on? Do you think that yesterday was the day, or because then they have that FA Cup break in between, then just kind of wait till after that? Because I think that's what I'm thinking at the moment.
Yeah, I'm thinking I'll probably go back and get another midfielder.
Yeah.
And I think I'll do it. They play on the second calendar day after the FA Cup break week for them.
Yeah, they
as
do.
Well.
On Wednesday the 26th.
Yeah, so there's a better hop on point. You don't need to go in on the first calendar day afterwards as well. So you can have someone playing that first day. I think I could be wrong off the top of my head, but I think that's Ollie Watkins' last good game. Not that he needs fixtures. Not that he needs the ease of fixtures just now, but. I think that's the last of it. Like, I think he goes on a bit of a difficult run. Villa going a bit of a difficult run fixture wise after that. So that could be Ollie Watkins moving to. And I spoke to you about Enzo Fernandez as well on the pod last week, and I think that either Brighton or Enzo Fernandez could be my move from Watkins on that day.
Yeah, I agree. The Enzo thing it's interesting because. Since I brought him in nice and early when he was really low owned, and he's done well for me. He got booked yesterday, he got passing 3 points, but he's the real difference at the moment as to why I can't obviously jump on a Brighton player. But I've been looking at it, and Chelsea, they're home to Liverpool on Tuesday, which I'm not sure how he'll do in that one, if he'll get bonus or not. They are away to Wolves, but we have had a really interesting question through about jumping off Enzo and then daisy chaining onto a Brighton player, which we'll touch on in a minute, which I didn't see, I've got to be honest, but it looks really interesting. It does involve potentially Leeds or Palace, which isn't the best, but there is some potential upside there. Ian Parrin is in the chat, doesn't have Trippier. Barry Morrison says Bruno Fernandes for Saka, hopefully still to pay off because today it didn't. And it says Saka back in next Sunday, whatever happens. FPL Spartans is in, Nico's in, Ben McCrum, Owen Jones. We were late, he says, are you busy changing the overlay to put your rank up to 8th, Fergie? I took Paul's break as the exact opportunity to do that, Owen. So very well, as you typed that, I was actually doing that. Dan Cox says, can't join you live. Get in the Easter Getting the Easter tree down from the loft for those who joined us. Was it this time last year or the year before? Dan did a pretty spectacular Easter rant. I'll see if I can dig it up. I'm not sure if I'm able to, but if I can, we may be able to play it next week.
It must have been 2 years ago. Now.
It was a fantastic rant. Interesting from Aaron Alton. He's absolutely right. He says Enzo may not be so appealing now that Kante is back. And I did spot someone in one of the hub chats saying that his passing seemed to drop right off as soon as Kante was playing. So that is one to kind of watch as well. We'll touch on that in a bit. Let's look at the week to come, look at captains and potential transfer opportunities. So tomorrow night, Everton and Tottenham is probably the easiest day to navigate in quite a while. Kane's, I haven't checked his ownership. Last I checked, it was like 91% or something like that in the top 1,000. No other Spurs assets worth having. No Everton's assets Spurs having. So Kane captain for you, Paul, tomorrow?
Yeah, nice and easy after getting killed by EO today. So
not such an easy one is Tuesday, the 4th of April, which is really interesting. So we've got Leicester and Villa. Thinking of popular assets, maybe Maddison, obviously Watkins. I think Leicester again. They just sacked Rodgers, so it's probably fair to say you probably expect a bit of a bounce. But Watkins is on form, so he's a definite contender there. Leeds and Forest. There is a good hop-on point for Leeds on Tuesday, actually. We were chatting last week, weren't we? And I was saying, do you know what? I may take a punt on Rodrigo. And I thought, I didn't think, I hadn't checked in all honesty, but he is classed sadly as a forward in this game, isn't he? Which I think in every other game he's a midfielder, which is a real shame. But I think he could be good.
He didn't start against Arsenal, which surprised me as well. I thought he might have started just today, but
yeah. Bournemouth and Brighton. So obviously the Brighton assets could be popular, and Chelsea and Liverpool is one. It's quite hard to call that match, I think, at the moment. Obviously, lots of people still have Salah. Some have Enzo. So a difficult one here, and I can see a real split in captaincy here. I suppose looking at the top of my head, I'd be probably tempted to go for Dunk just because he's going to nail the passing against Bournemouth, right? If I had March, I may be tempted. Salah, I'd definitely be tempted. Watkins is tempting as well. I think I go for Dunk. What about you?
Yeah, I had already highlighted that as like part of the reason why I got Duncan last week, just before the international break, was with this game in mind as well. So I'm just going to stick to the plan that I've got, not make any kind of rogue changes last minute. I'm not put off by the fact they conceded 3. I think it was kind of a freak game against Brentford at the weekend there.
Yeah.
Dunk nice and easy for me. If I had McAllister, maybe I'd be tempted by McAllister. But you're right. I think there will be a split. I think Salah's ownership's still decent. I don't think anyone will go for the Enzo, even if you owned them.
I don't think it's a game for him, is it? He'd probably get tackles or something maybe, but can't see him getting the passing. He was a bit unlucky with a header yesterday, but yeah, I don't think it's a captaincy game for Enzo, is it?
Yeah, but you're right with Watkins, and again Maddison. That's like he's going to a bit of a bad run just now for owners and been a bit unlucky. I think he's had shots bonus twice over the last 4 or 5 game weeks as well. But yeah, Watkins is a shout. But I think I'll go with Dunk, knowing that you get the steady kind of 5-point platform and build from there. And he's been unlucky recently in terms of front of goal. I say unlucky. He should have scored. So
Wednesday the 5th, Man United against Brighton, West Ham, Newcastle. Marcus Rashford, probably guess in terms of ownership and and potential upside, has got to be the favourite there. I'm guessing Rashford captain on Wednesday.
Yeah, I think so. Although I thought it was dreadful today, but Man United all over were dreadful. And they're different at Old Trafford than they are away from home this season. So
I got to be fair though. I did think Newcastle were very, very good, and I think they looked back to the team that they were kind of pre-Christmas, just after Christmas. They've gone on a bit of a blip, but I thought they looked exceptional today, and they made a lot of chances, and I think they look good. They've still got in the short term, Newcastle. They've got 3 away games, as you mentioned earlier, back to back now. So it's going to be an interesting test to see what they can do. But away to West Ham is probably not as very frightening a prospect at the moment for them. But
yeah, it's Brentford and Villa is the 2 after that.
Yeah, you've got to fancy the other 2 to score, haven't you?
Yeah, I fancied Man United to score today before the game, and it was really again weighing up why I didn't go for Trippier earlier, because I might have to go for him later anyway when Newcastle's fixtures are better. But I thought out of those 4 games, maybe the West Ham game was the one that I thought he might get a clean sheet in, and he hadn't been picking up any attacking returns or bonus of any sort recently as well. So
yeah, and then as we move on to the weekend, only 2 game days outside of international break. I thought it was quite interesting. 8 games on the Saturday, including 6 3 p.m. games. I haven't seen that for a while. And then just 2 on the Sunday, none on the Friday and none on the Monday, which I thought was quite interesting. But Saturday, we get to the lineups for United against Everton, Wolves and Chelsea, Spurs and Brighton, Leicester, Bournemouth, Fulham, West Ham, Brentford, Newcastle, Villa, Forest. My goodness, there's going to be some points there in there. And then Southampton and Man City. What we've mentioned about this Haaland game. United against Everton. I think obviously we get to see United play again midweek to see if we get any improvement. You guess they would improve midweek. I don't think Ten Hag is going to accept that sort of performance. I thought when Martial when he came on as well, he looked a bit different. Which should make some space for Rashford and things like that. So I still expect it to be okay. As it stands, who was your favourite captaincy option for Saturday? It's a really tough one, isn't it?
Probably Rashford.
Yeah,
but I could see Kane being a decent option. I might end up splitting. I've split my 2 teams now for the first time the first time this season. There was 1 transfer I did in 1 team earlier on the season, one that I didn't. Now I've evened up the transfer counts in both, and I've got Trippier in one and not another. So I might split the captaincies now in it as well.
Yeah, we obviously get to see the new look Spurs and Harry Kane tomorrow night against Everton, and obviously if Spurs put on a bit of a show, confident performance, as good as Brighton have been, they haven't exactly been tight at the back, so that could be a really open game, a bit of a goal fest actually. Obviously depends how Spurs set up, but yeah, absolutely wide open on Saturday. And on Sunday then, Leeds and Palace is the early game. Liverpool Arsenal on the at the 4:30 game. Interesting this one. You'd probably guess that Salah owners would go for Salah against Arsenal, even though that is a tough old game. Obviously, lots of people have jumped off Arsenal now. I'm quite tempted to maybe move Bruno onto Salah. I think that's the move you mentioned earlier, actually, isn't it?
Yeah.
On Sunday, potentially a game early, because I do think that United play Forest again before Liverpool play Leeds, I want to say. But yeah, is that your thinking at the moment then, is it?
Yeah. I think Salah's record against the top teams at home is great. Yeah. We know that firsthand from not owning Salah when he hauled against Man United the other week. I think that he'll be the biggest EO, like he'll be the biggest captain basically on that game day. So when I've made my transfer plans, like loose plans for the next kind of 3, 4, 5 weeks, I've earmarked who I think will be the highest owned captain on each calendar day, and I'm trying to get that player in as long as it didn't involve like completely rearranging my team. And I think that because Salah will be there, it was part of the Bruno move. Get him in for 3 games, go to Salah. I knew I was going to go to Salah anyway, so it's only one extra transfer rather than two on the in and out of Bruno. So yeah, I think unless anything changes between now and then in terms of injuries, suspensions, etc., then I think that'll be my move.
Yeah, same. I think, and I'll be glad to do it because ever since I've sold Haaland, I've been holding this massive pot of money in my bank. And as you're making transfers, I'm always, obviously I plan it, and obviously I look at the budget and stuff. But I still sometimes have a bit of blind panic, thinking, oh, I've got to have enough money because we're going to want Salah, we're going to want Haaland because the fixtures moving forward is so good. So I'll be glad just to get Salah in place. Probably looking at the fixtures. Leave him for almost all the rest of the season, I think, by the look of it. What about Van Dijk? I personally, I think Arsenal will score. So and I gotta be honest, I'd be surprised if Van Dijk got passing. So I think I'll probably leave that one for a game or two.
Yeah, like if we're thinking what the template like roughly looks like, I mean, there's a core 7 or 8 players in most engaged managers' teams now, and defenders aren't at a premium, and therefore defences will look vaguely like Dunk. I don't have him. Dunk, Trippier, Zinchenko,
Yeah,
and maybe like Gabriel in some as well. So Newcastle's fixtures do clear up after this kind of run of away games. So you're unlikely going to take Trippier out for Van Dijk, and Brighton have the most games left out of every team in the league, so you're going to take Dunk out. And then you wouldn't take an Arsenal player out to get Van Dijk in that game either, because on the Arsenal play before Liverpool again the following week, and then Arsenal play at home to Southampton on the Friday night, and that feels like it feels like one of those 2 games is the optimal week to bring Van Dijk in, or another Liverpool asset from probably an Arsenal player, whether that's a midfielder or a defender, to pick up there.
Yeah, I agree. I'll probably leave that one, but yeah, I agree with you. Also, think Salah is probably looking a good one to bring in ahead of all those really good fixtures. You got the captaincy game against Leeds as well, haven't they? The following week, and I think they got Forest as well and stuff. So yeah, looking good. Thank you so much to everyone who sent in questions. We've had quite a few, so let's run through some. FPL Spartans firstly asks about Salah. He wants to get in midweek to sell Saka or Kane. I don't think midweek personally is essential to get him in. I'd probably leave it. I think out of the two, I'd sell Saka ahead of Kane at this moment in time due to the fixture volume. What do you think, Paul?
Yeah, if I was selling one, I would sell Saka out of those two, only because there's a nice re-entry point for Arsenal for the small run of fixtures. But I think I'm similar to you in that I wouldn't do it and pick up Salah on either at home Arsenal the following Sunday or away to Leeds the following Monday after that.
Agree. Darren Slater, flying high. Would you rather pick a captain you know is in the lineup, or go for better captain later kickoff as a chance of being rested? Example: Haaland next week got stung by Saka this week. It's a really tough one. I personally think it's always down to the alternatives, and I think on both Haaland's next two game days, we have no like. I personally think it's probably likely that Haaland plays next week, but we don't know. But I think there are really good alternatives. So I like I say, at the moment, can get to him quite easily, but I don't have to. And like you say, Paul, a booking for Tony would be nice. But as we know, Tony, on Saturday just gone, for example, yesterday, if Haaland would have been starting, there would have been a lot of Tony to Haaland moves. But then Tony just knocked in a 10-pointer easy as pie, which is what he does. So I do think if Haaland plays against Southampton, he may score a goal, he may get a couple of goals, right? But I can see him getting brought off early for Bayern regardless. I can't see him playing 90. And there are alternatives. So, long answer there.
Here's how I'm thinking of it, is that if you've still got Haaland in your team, you've probably missed out on points from someone, like, because all the popular strikers have been doing well recently. Isak had that Friday night captaincy where he'd done well, but thinking of the big ones like Kane. Well, Kane's plays tomorrow anyway, and Watkins has been returning every game, and Tony's been returning. I think he's had one blank, but has been pretty consistent as well. So if you're still holding Haaland, you would have lost out on one of those positions. When you come to Saturday coming up, if you don't have him, unless there's an obvious move to make out, like if Tony's suspended, like that then makes sense. But if not, you're either going to have to take out. Well, you have to take out somebody from one of your positions, whether that's one of your forward line, who all have good fixtures. Again, Watkins has a good fixture, Tony has a good fixture, Kane has a good fixture. So you're unlikely to move out of one of those positions. And even the midfielders just now, all of them, all the popular midfielders seem to be doing well, or again have good fixtures or have good fixtures. So unless you're still kind of holding on to a defender that you might want to move out and pick up Haaland that way, I could see that working. But other than that, I think that I think that it's almost pretty safe to not go with him for that reason, or that's certainly the way that I'm thinking about it.
And even if he was still owned by 70% of the game, then that is probably another reason to go for him. But he's not. I haven't checked his ownership today, but I'm guessing it's probably down again, probably 30% or something like that. So yeah, really kind of long answer there, but for that Haaland,
I would still captain players who seldom get rests in later games that aren't the early game if I thought they were better captaincy. Like Saka, the news broke about him not playing yesterday, but a lot of people still captained them, and people weren't really punished. Like, you got them, and you're not disheartened by the fact that you captained them, really, because I put on a dunk and I got 2 more points than you, so it's not like it's not like the end of the world. I think like next week, I think take Haaland. Like, those are the reasons why I probably won't be going to Haaland next week. But Kane's a 3 o'clock kickoff, right? And if I thought that Kane at home to Brighton was a better captaincy shout than Rashford or Bruno at home to Everton, just because it's a 12:30 kickoff, that wouldn't sway me from taking off Kane if I thought that he was a better option.
Agree. Dan Bright asks why we don't think Trippier is a good Sky asset generally. He's the 5th highest scoring defender for 7.8, and after today, it is a good question. I think we touched on it last week, but we did say that kind of Newcastle went on this ridiculous run of clean sheets, which they're unlikely to kind of emulate. I don't think he was anywhere near the passing today or tackles. Obviously, he got the assist, right, which is what he does. I don't think he's had an assist for a while, actually, either. I don't think they've kept a clean sheet for a while, either. So, for me, it was a pure EO pick today, which has worked out, obviously, favourably, but that's all he is for me. He's not a person I would really expect to come into my team and smash it for me. It was just a coverage pick to try and ensure that I held rank. Anything to add?
No, yeah. Maybe I've been not articulated it particularly well in the past, but I don't think he's a bad pick. I just don't think he's a great pick, and you need to have him. But your point's valid as well. If he does knock in a 10-pointer like he did today, that's hurt me pretty bad because his ownership's so high. So it's that, like I've mentioned it before, it's that Venn diagram. But what you really want is a combination of keeping clean sheets and having some base points, like most likely from passing, because that's the most predictable of the bonus points you can get. So traditionally, players like Van Dijk and Laporte, Diaz,
Lewis Dunk.
Lewis Dunk, Thiago Silva,
Yeah.
like those types of players are my favoured players in Sky, because you start on a base of 5 rather than starting a base of 2. And I did think that I had hope with the overhaul, and I did think I was lucky over those that went Ederson, based on that clean sheet run. Remember, Mitrovic double hit the penalty. Like they got a clean sheet in that game, and there was a few games where their expected goals conceded was over 1, and teams just weren't putting away chances against them. So I don't think he's a bad pick. And with their fixtures coming up, I'm going to have to get him, whether it's sooner or later anyway. And his price is good, considering there's no standout defender options this season. But but that's my reasoning behind it.
Cool. Dark Invader. I think City defence could be worth it, especially Ake. Not yet for me. I think maybe later down the line, towards the end of the season when the fixtures start to pile up, but certainly not pre-FA Cup semi. After that, I think we may be looking at some. Anything to add there, Paul?
Nah, similar situation is what I mentioned earlier on, in that after the blank, the 2 game weeks afterwards, there's good hop-on points for Man City.
Yeah.
And then they'll have the extra fixtures at that point. They're going to have that blank game coming up as well. So over the next 3 games, Ake could play 2, miss out on 1, and then they have a blank game, and then they play Arsenal. Maybe the following week's a good time to jump back on there. Rodri will become popular again, I think, as well. Definitely. For those that were transferred.
Andrew Lee, what to do with Trippier? He sent this in before the match today. I imagine a lot have got him for the single game day captain. Newcastle haven't looked great. Stick with him or move him on?
I always read the questions before I come on the pod, and I go through and like them to remind myself that I've read that question and thought about it. And I'm sitting thinking, someone's trying to go off Trippier, and I'm really sweating about whether I should be bringing him in or not. And definitely don't take him out. I might not get him midweek. I probably won't get him midweek, but I will be getting him again after, provided again injury, suspension, plans change. But I will likely be going back to him, because they do have a really good fixture run, and because his EO is going to be so high. It's just I thought that Gabriel could possibly outscore him in Arsenal's next 3 compared to Newcastle's 4. Was my thinking. I'll obviously be wrong on that now, but that was my thinking. That was my plan on it. But I wouldn't take him out to bring him back in again.
It was a 3-0 staring you in the face there, Paul. 3-0. Just go back to him. Just go back to him.
Not when you're doing it till the end of the season. It's a 3-3 now, so it's even number of games.
Well, it's a 2-0 now, and you can go back to the Arsenal player if you really wanted.
Well, that's going to cost me 3 transfers, because I'm going to need to get the Arsenal player back out.
Daisy chain. Keep Trippier, daisy chain. Come on, Paul. Come on. This is your game. That's why you're second and not first. Dark Invader. Would you bring a Liverpool defender in? I could only get Konate. Do you like Konate for Liverpool fixtures? I haven't really looked at Konate. I probably wouldn't do it ahead of Chelsea and Arsenal, personally. Maybe after that. I haven't really looked much at Konate, Paul.
I never pick any Liverpool defenders outside of Van Dijk. I couldn't make the same argument in what I made about Trippier. I don't even like Trent in this game, and I didn't like him when Liverpool had a good. I didn't like Trent when Liverpool had a good defence, or a good midfield, let alone now. I wouldn't touch Konate.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. I'm probably gonna have a bit of a look more next weekend. I tend to only really look into things one week at a time. Got a rough idea, and then I'll do a bit of analysis. But I never to the point really of going in deep when things are 2 or 3 weeks away, because things change so quickly.
Is Matip? Is he
I think Konate has played the last few games. I think he's nailed number 1 now, so he could be interesting. He could be an interesting one. But we'll maybe have a look next week on that one. Also asks around when to bring Brighton players in. The next three fixtures, so they're away to Bournemouth, which is really nice midweek, but then they do have a couple of hard games, then they blank. So I personally think that Saturday, if you hadn't done it then, I know a popular move was Saliba to March or Saliba to McAllister, which was obvious after Saliba got injured. I think you could wait, maybe. I've got Enzo who matches their games in terms of volume, so I'm potentially happy to wait. Any thoughts here, Paul?
No, I think I mentioned earlier that there's a good Brighton hop-on point after that FA Cup week where they'll have 2 games more than maybe like there might be a hop-on point where you would get 4 extra games for Brighton players over everybody else because they're going to have 3 double game weeks. And if there's any of those where the opportunity, like if the first one's kind of Sunday and a midweek, and you're taking out the Saturday player, then that gives you 4 extra games. But if not, there's certainly multiple jump-on points at that stage. If you really needed the budget to do something, I would suggest going to March because he's only 6.9 million, and then you like that frees up budget, and then with the view of just holding him all the way through to the end of the season at that point.
Cool. A couple of questions off Dark Invader and Sam Arundel around is it time to make use of transfers with plenty of 3-for-1, 4-for-1s available? Dark Invader says, what are the best 3-for-1s or 3-for-0s coming up? Can't think of many. I think we just entered one this weekend. I think the United for Arsenal, Newcastle for Arsenal as well, and a few and things. There's also a question a bit later on of Sky FF Wilson just on this, which I gotta be honest, I hadn't seen, and I'm very tempted being an Enzo owner. He says, while Enzo was a great pick, would you consider moving off to Rodrigo? Obviously Leeds have a 4-for-1 over Chelsea, as do Palace. Would probably then move to a Brighton asset on the 26th and go without Enzo. So I do think Enzo has been really good up until now, but Brighton is the place to be, right? I think in terms of fixture volume, quality of assets, enabler and stuff. After Chelsea play Wolves, they do have Brighton next, but both Leeds and Palace embark on 4-for-1s then, as do quite a few other teams have 3-for-1s and stuff. So have you thought of any opportunities, Paul, of 3-for-0s or 4-for-1s? Because it seems to me at the moment like there's not too many until we come out with the other side of like the FA Cup break. Any thinking? I know you haven't got your planner in front of you, so I'm trying to be as easy as I can on you because you're on your phone.
The laptop has just fixed it, but I can't do an easy transition from one to the other, unfortunately. So, like that, if I had a lot of transfers, I might have considered taking Arsenal players out to then go back into Arsenal to then come back off again. And there's multiple teams that sits in that like in those little nests of fixtures at that point in time. I'm happy with my transfer count, but if I was 1 or 2 transfers down from there, I would be a bit more uncomfortable, I think, and hence why I'm picking and choosing at what point to do this. And I believe that the point after the FA Cup is the next big point to do this. I think moving into Liverpool,
if you can trust obvious,
them, if you can trust them, then moving in there makes sense to me. Off the Arsenal players or off Bruno, perhaps some players. Yeah, or if you've got a lot of budget, perhaps there's like a switch you can do because Chelsea will have the blank as well. So and as does Man United, so you can come back off Rashford again if you hold. So there is a few options in there that I'd consider. But if you're on the average, just above the average transfer counts, what I think I'd do is do something similar to what I'm doing, where it's after the FA Cup. Have a look at fixture volumes to the end of the season at that point, so you don't need to jump off and jump on players. You can jump on players knowing that you're going to hold them till the end of the season, perhaps do some daisy chain moves there. As I said, Brighton will have, at the point of which the following game week after the FA Cup missing week, Brighton will have 3 games more than quite a lot of teams in the league to play at that point, and any hop-on point from there would make sense to go back into Brighton.
Just to add onto the question off Sky FF, even though it is a 4-1, Palace and Leeds over Chelsea, it's also a 1-1 and then a subsequent 3-0. I'd be tempted not to jump on for the 4-1, but do the 3-0 and then jump off, only because you never know what's going to happen, and Enzo could easily outscore any player you bring in as well. So hopefully that answers that question.
You can't be down from the move if you wait and do it. Whereas you can be down from the move initially if you do it.
Exactly. If they have the 2 games first, then I think it's worth doing. But when it's essentially a 1-1, I just don't think it's worth it. Laurie Bacon, best keeper from now to end of season. What a really good question this is. I'm really thought about my keeper because I've had a look, and Brentford do have a fair few fixtures still, don't they? Still, I haven't really thought of moving off right yet.
There's a good jump off Brentford, and I think it's the week after the international break as well. But I genuinely believe, and I would have said this isn't recency bias, after the next 3 games, Newcastle's got a really nice run till the end of the season. I think they finish at Chelsea. You could argue they played Chelsea. That's a green fixture these days anyway, right?
Yeah.
But Pope could be a great show.
Just looking towards the end of the season, Brentford's last few games are really tough. Away to Chelsea, home to Forest, that's a decent one. Away to Liverpool, West Ham, Spurs, and Man City. So yeah, it's definitely worth thinking about, because there will be teams like Man City, Liverpool, Brighton, and Man United who will have a lot of really, really good fixtures. So I think it's probably worth hanging on to Raya at the moment. They've got the same or even more fixtures than most until before the FA Cup, and even afterwards. First game back, they're home to Villa. Potentially after that, you could look to move on to someone else. So yeah,
I've seen a few people moved on to Martinez yesterday, which worked out initially great, and Villa have got a nice run, and they've got a good hop off point as well. So it seemed like that was a good move for a transition. But
yeah, Aman Tatler asks about Palace fixtures, new manager boost. Any recommendations? So obviously, the obvious one is Zaha, but I think he went off yesterday, didn't he? I think he went off injured.
Yeah.
So I haven't.
The 2 centre halves will often pick up passing bonus.
Yeah, they used to have the Hodgson, didn't they?
Yeah.
Is it still Gehi and
Anderson? Yeah.
Gehi, the legend Anderson from last season for you, wasn't he?
Yeah, he did really well for me. But not in the. I think he scored his first goal for Palace when I owned them, so it wasn't in the avenues that I was anticipating when I brought him in.
I'll take a look at the past, I think, for the next week or two, but I do think Enzo to Gehi onto Brighton mid-March could potentially work. If their passing stays and picks up and stuff, could be worth looking at there. Dan Cox asks, how was the Scotland meetup yesterday? There was an FPL meetup in Edinburgh, wasn't there? And he said, did Glenroy down a bottle of Buckfast? How was it, Paul? Do you have a good day?
Yeah, it was a cracking day. I sent a picture of me and Glenroy to Dan, and Dan was like, has he got a pizza crunch stuffed into his jacket pocket?
Brilliant.
But it was but Edinburgh's not like so. Like, do you get Buckfast in Wales?
I thought it was a made up thing. I got to be honest.
All right, okay. So that I'm not doing a Dan here where it's like, oh, do you have that in your country? Because it's weird. Like, I live in Fife now, and it's popular like with the kids in Fife, but it's mainly a Glasgow thing, or that's how I knew it anyway. So you don't really get it in Edinburgh, and like I'm sure that you could find it somewhere, but it's not that popular at all. And Glenroy said he'd been in a couple of the off licenses looking for a bottle, but couldn't find one. So
legends, absolute legends. I'm glad you all had a good time. Final question, FPL Commander. 2 more Arsenal players in my team. Moving Zinchenko to Rashford today, which he's done, but still got Martinelli. any recommended move for him or keep with no problems of funds? I'd probably keep, to be honest, with because Arsenal do have some fixtures coming back up, and we'll have a captaincy day on Friday night in a couple of weeks as well. I'm keeping 2 at the moment. I'm keeping Zinchenko and Saka. I think I'll be keeping those. I may add 1 more for that little group of fixtures and then move off 1 or 2 of them then on to the next sort of phase. I think is my very, very loose plan. But yeah, I don't suppose you'd recommend getting rid altogether, Paul, yet?
No, I'd hold for that reason as well.
Superb. Yeah, good stuff. Apologies, we're probably not as organised as we normally are. Paul's
this is my fault.
Everything's Paul's fault. No, Paul struggled to make tomorrow, so we tried to squeeze in this just to make sure that we did get one done. Obviously, haven't got the stats or the tables or anything from the latest games because we went live literally straight after the Man United game, so we haven't got leagues to show you and stuff. But we will have it all back for you next week. Paul on his phone with no data in front of him as well. But thank you, Paul, still for making the effort, and coming on and getting this done for this week, especially since there's a lot of fixtures still to come. Going to be a lot of points scored over this next week with a lot of well-owned players playing twice. I can see some game week scores of 150 points and stuff like that again, which we're going to see, which is going to be mega interesting. But thank you, Paul, and obviously 2nd and 4th still absolutely flying. I have gained a bit of ground on you today with Trippier, though, a nice tempo. Even though you did have March yesterday, I haven't got March yet, so I'm surplus 2 points for the week on you, which I'm reasonably happy with, I suppose.
I'm not my team in 4th. You're not, though.
Not the team in 4th. No, exactly. Nice cover pick there, mate. Very, very good. But yeah. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us live. As usual, absolutely superb interaction and chat. Really good stuff. Paul, where can people find you?
On Twitter at Paul McAnulty, 1 MCANULTY.
And my handle on Twitter is at FFH_Fergi. Thank you so much for all the kind comments in the chat, guys. It's much appreciated. If you like what you watched, please press the like button. It would be much appreciated. Remember to subscribe in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. And if you enjoyed your listen, please rate the podcast versions and leave some comments. We will be back next week. Easter Monday next week, Paul. How are you fit for next week?
Good next week, and then I think the following week I'm at a wedding on Monday. So.
I'm away for 2 full weekends after that, so we're gonna have to be really creative with how we fit in these pods. I think I'm away Friday to Monday. I'm up in Sheffield for the snooker for the World Championships, and then I'm away the following weekend for 4 days as well, Friday to Monday, for my kids' annual football tour in Butlins. So yeah, we're gonna have to be really creative how we do this if you've got weddings as well. But we will get them done. Absolutely. And thank you so much for joining us, everyone, as usual. We'll be back next week, looking ahead to Sky Game Week 37. Have a great remainder of Game Week 35 and 36, and goodbye for now.